What up, what up, what up? Hey, everybody, hope you're doing well. Hey, I just want to let you know, I know everybody can't always support and donate to the podcast, but hey, if you can do a one-time donation, I put up a Buy Me a Coffee link in this description of the podcast. So if you go to the description of the podcast, it'll be at the bottom, and you can just go to that link and you can buy me a cup of coffee, or two if you want. And that would just help support the show, and I can wake up a little bit more and bring you more info. So thanks for listening to the podcast. If you can donate, that would be much appreciated. And let's get on to the show. What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to Lockdown Universe, some of the bizarre, peculiar, and unheard of stories of UFO, legend, and paranormal lore. Welcome back, welcome back. Happy to be back. Hopefully you guys are doing excellent and taking care of yourselves. So as promised, the second edition of this UFO disclosure project, really fascinating whistleblowers that are coming through. The next one up in our list, right off of the disclosure project, just came out June 12th. It's very fascinating. This particular individual was in the U.S. Army, stationed at Fort Irwin, California, and he had an interaction with multiple aircraft and one of the most amazing personal engagements up close with a UFO I've ever heard. So let's get into it. So Mr. Stephen DIGNA Jr. Is the second up, or well, actually he's the third on the dais to talk. It's the second in my podcast because I'm going by order of the guys I found the most fascinating. So this individual had a special position. He does talk about the fact that he had a brain injury that he sustained while in duty. So it does give him some difficulty during the conversation. However, that being said, he is well spoken. He gives a lot of information, and he states the following testimony is true and accurate as it can be to the best of his ability, and he's prepared to swear this testimony under oath before Senate and Congress. So he states he's a former sergeant in the United States Army, began active duty service in '99, and served until 2002. He was assigned to the U.S. Army Training Center W4J9 Alpha Alpha, which is in California in the Mojave Desert, near the Death Valley. He was assigned to Alpha Company Group, which is a live fire combat division that supports and that has civilians and military for their management. It's a live fire area, a live fire base, the largest in the world. Okay, so it's a pretty big area. So his job is to observe live fire practice at a level of observation that's on a deck that's approximately 3 stories high from the desert floor. That's his job, to look for anything, whether it's weather, whether it's incoming aircraft, whether it's anything incoming. He needs to know about it. So he's on a 3-story incline from the deck, and that's his job, to observe. And he rose through the ranks faster than any observer, I guess is what we'll call his job, fire range observer, and he was a sergeant. What he saw this night, the first night, there's a couple nights. The first night he sees what appears to be a large craft, approximately 200 feet off the ground. That's pretty damn close, Jesus. And he states that it measured about 172 feet across, and it strongly resembled a hovering B-2 Spirit. Upon first glance, he stated his eyes were adjusting to the darkness. Even the craft was dark, and he could see 7 lights in a V shape. He said he closed his eyes for approximately 30 seconds to allow them to adjust to lighting conditions, and they were running red lights at the live site because it was a current live fire exercise, and the range was hot, which means that rounds were being fired and lives are at risk at all times during these live fire drills. This was interrupted by a very ominous call, a net call, saying ceasefire, ceasefire. And this was from one of the observers on the ground. And they had 27 teams out there, and their job is to keep these soldiers alive. So they have to cease fire if there's anything going on. So he started to make out the shape of a craft, and 2 men from Raytheon were present near him when he pulled out his night vision goggles to get a better look at the craft. It appeared to be generating 7 lights along its wing and underbelly, and he noticed another smaller craft oriented on the right side, at the same height as the first craft, approximately 75 feet to the right. The second craft was jet black, V-shaped, pointed towards the first craft, and this craft had equally joined spaced rectangular sections forming the hull of the craft, and it had a gimbal rack that was deployed from the bottom of the craft, approximately 5 to 6 holographic lights. Holographic emitting lights were pointed directly at the first craft. His assumption was they were displaying a really strange color within his night vision goggles. Well, as you guys may know this, night vision goggles don't have color. They have green and shades of black and white. That's it. So he could see color within his night vision goggles, which was not normal. So he thought perhaps this was a hologram being projected by the other craft, but he couldn't confirm it. So they have detailed drawings of this second craft. Basically looks like cubes that were formed into a V shape, and it was jet black, and it had like little gimbal hooks coming out. At the bottom of these gimbal hooks was like little balls that emitted light. And he's continuing his story. He's saying he continues to have part of a brain injury suffered during an explosion on a live fire on the observation deck. But he states that the Raytheon individuals noticed he had night vision goggles, and they went from chatting cheerfully and being pretty relaxed to being visibly agitated and having a very severe look of disapproval and anger. At that point, they both went inside calmly, maybe a little bit angrily, and it felt like he crossed in line. He took another look with his night vision goggles. The reason this event was not reported was due to the fact that it was not unidentified. He states, I'm going to repeat, the reason it was not made known is because it was not identified. It was one of their craft. So this is really fascinating because it didn't need wind or any lift or anything. It was just hovering stationary. He stated that, this is very dangerous because this craft showed up unscheduled, unannounced. He got no notification. His job is to maintain command and control and to be the hub of communication, to be the top observer controller for the tactical operation, and to get consent from command center for any desert warfare or anything that was going to go on throughout their mission that night. Anything that's going on the desert floor or in the air has to be communicated to himself and his superiors, as well as the civilian personnel in Raytheon. It's really interesting because I've actually known some folks that have worked for Raytheon. I don't know them personally, but they were like family, friends, or whatever. And now I want to go back and question them if they're still alive, because I want to know if they saw anything or know anything about this. Not this particular event, but anything. So he's moving forward. He's talking about how they shut down everything after these crew or this craft was seen. So he states about 5 to 7 days later, an event that basically destroyed his marriage, destroyed him, and his relationship with his children happened. This was a very stressful event. He breathes really deeply a few times, like, trying to get himself pumped up to be able to say this. But he says approximately 5 to 7 days later, the following event took place. This was after a 72-hour tour of duty he had, and he took a weekend pass to take his wife out to a movie. There's only one road that goes back and forth between base and town. And this took place at night. He said he was really tired. He just got back from around the range for 78 hours, actually, not 72. He says, we passed a dry lake bed on the right-hand side, and then a light, a very extremely bright light, he could see in his rearview mirror, came up close. And a bright white light popped up out of the canyon, looked over his left shoulder, and there was a zipping light. It zipped through the curves just like he had driven, mimicking his exact movements and his exact track, exactly the speed that he had driven. Suddenly, all he could see was the bright light out of all the windows. At the exact same time, his car's power steering and engine, electrical systems, everything died completely, and his car went dead. He exited the vehicle and rushed towards the front of the car, thinking someone was pointing a floodlight at them, and he was going to start yelling at the guys. But he stepped through a thick white field of plasma that encompassed a triangular craft. He turned to inspect the craft and saw his wife open the door, and she ran out towards the front of the car and was yelling. And then she was instantaneously locked in a field of white plasma in a static lock, or a stasis lock, he states. So once he thought that she was enveloped and in a stasis lock, he heard a female voice in his head stating that, yes, she is in a stasis lock. It was confirmation. And so he was relieved that she was safe for the time being. He approached the craft and inspected it. He stated that he started to run his hand along the craft. The craft was touching his car. It was nose to nose at a perpendicular angle, so it was like an L. His car one side and the ship the other. The craft had a plasma field emitting approximately 12 inches off the craft. Inside this white plasma field, the craft seemed to be approximately 23 feet long. He stepped forward with his left hand extended. He slightly reached out to it. The craft responded to his movement, which startled him, but the craft stood still. And he moved closer towards it, and he pet it. He kind of pet the craft. And he stated, as he moved his hand forward, it was very smooth. It looked like polished black onyx, and he noticed the ambient temperature was not hot or cold, and that he leaned down and he swiped his hand up the craft's starboard side, and also towards the front of the craft. It was as smooth as glass. However, when I drew my hand back towards me, it felt like shark skin or a cat's tongue, much like a Shar-Pei. This was followed by a reaction, and the reaction that followed my hand as... Okay, he's kind of readjusting here. He said there was like tiger stripes as he put his hand on the craft the correct way. And he kind of pushed his head forward and his hand forward. And as he swiped his hand up, like planing a piece of wood, he drew his hand back, and that's when he felt the strange texture, like tiger skin, or like shark skin, or like a cat's tongue. And when he drew his hand back, pixels jumped off the craft, like there were micro shavings. Like he said it resembled graphene or magnetite shavings, or nanoparticles. And as he did it, he swiped up first, and then back again, and it emitted a tiger stripe pattern as he brushed it forward. And as he brushed it back, pixels popped up. And he said the craft purred, and it resonated a sound in his body cavity. It was a resonation vibration, and he felt like he was in contact with a living creature. Um, he continues here. As he drew his hand back, there was lattice work that opened up underneath, and very vibrant colors coming out of the craft in this underskin, a very thin nano layer. There was meshwork, honeycomb style lattice work, and the frame around it, beneath it, was there, and there were filaments flowing, and it looked like a neural network. I tried to see, if there's any universal bus system, but there's some symbols that directly are exactly the same as symbols that were seen by another individual that I did a podcast on, and these symbols are like L-shaped and then tetra-shaped on the bottom. Just interesting to state there. You can go back and listen to that podcast. I'll try to put it up in the comment section. But he said they were wickedly beautiful lights, pinks, blues, and every color you could think of in the spectrum were coming up underneath. He wasn't able to see anything else, so he kind of let go of the vehicle. The vehicle was stable. It was locked in position. He stated it wasn't like Star Wars where you jump off something and the thing moves. It was solidly locked in place. And he looked up into the sky above his car, and he could see a mirage, which looked like a silhouette, like how heat is on a road, kind of like shimmering in the night. And there was a straight line in the distance, very far in the distance, and it was like a ripple in the sky. He could tell right at this time that he wasn't looking at the sky. He was actually looking at a cloaking device of a humongous craft that encompassed the entire desert area he was under at that moment in time. And then he saw, as he panned his view to try to fathom the dimensions of this thing, he saw a giant bright white light open up, floating in the sky, and it was a hangar bay door opening, and he saw a female figure, silhouette in this area, and he got a message in his mind. He said, "You are not supposed to see this. You're not supposed to see this." He thought it could be a portal, but he knew what he was looking at was the hangar bay door of a silhouetted a hidden craft. And the voice said, "You're not supposed to see that. Again, you're not supposed to see it at all." And then all of a sudden, he began feeling a thud, thud, thud sound in his body. It was a resonant frequency being pulsed through his body. He felt like he might be microwaved. He felt like this started to increase in speed. There was a very rapid continuation of this speed. He said it's similar to the movie in Interstellar, where they fall through a black hole. I've seen Interstellar. I have to go back and check that part. But he said this felt like it was resonating through my body on a molecular level, on a quantum level, and he started to be lifted into the sky. He was starting to be abducted. And he stated that he was being lifted off the ground, his vehicle began being lifted off the ground as well, and his wife began being lifted off the ground as well. He started to become, his body tipped up, forward, or up towards the sky. And the rectangular shaped craft started to dock, and he was being pulled into this craft. He stated that there was some additional things that he could see on the craft that was on the ground, including what looked like some charging ports, possibly. He's not sure. Kind of looked like coax cable input. But he stated that for the sake of time, he's trying to hurry up and finish the fact that he was getting abducted. He was laid flat on his back, staring straight up at the ceiling inside of the craft, the big craft, not the small one. His vision, all he could see was a bright white light. Then he panned over and looked over to his side, saw his wife laying on a table. She was laying slightly lower than him, but had the same exact expression on her face of screaming. However, she was no longer stuck in the running position. She was flat. And that all happened in milliseconds. He can't continue anymore here because they're on a tight time schedule. However, he can state that when he was being lifted up, he could see some guys in white suits fully garmented masks, breathing apparatuses. They were working on the vehicle. Slightly next to that was a strange blue rack that looked like it could have been an automotive rack, could have been for another purpose, and that was my quick assumption as I was being abducted. There, it looks like he has to wrap it up due to time. So there's more to this story. There's more to this story. I'm going to try to bring it to you. He states that there was also a human female with red hair and fair skin. After that moment that he also saw, he panned to the other side of his viewing area. He saw that the desert was below them. They were actually in the same exact area. They weren't in space like he thought. They were probably still hovering, in cloaked condition. He sees the bay door open behind her, or a transparent-like door opening, and he could see the craft being docked in the ship, the craft that was on the ground. There's more to this story, but he's locked it with time. They got to get all these other guys' stories, so he's trying to give them that information, allow other folks to tell their story. So I'm going to look him up again. Pull his name up here. It is. He really gave a great description here of his story. His name's Stephen DIGNA Jr. So I'm going to look him up, try to give you some more info, maybe in a second podcast. But this is just what he stated during his time with the Disclosure Project in a live press conference on June 12th, 2023, just 2 days ago. So I'm going to leave it there because it's getting late and I got to get to bed. But if I find more information, I will definitely bring it to you. What do you think about this story? Fascinating. I find many similarities in this story in that we have a story from 1980, Rendlesham Forest. This craft, with the imaging that they have on it, they had a little picture of it on here, looked very similar. This same craft was seen by another individual, a aerospace designer, as a matter of fact, who made his own model of what he saw. It looks exactly like this craft. What is this craft? Is this craft human or is it alien? According to Greer, all of these craft are, if it has to do with any abduction, all of these craft are ours. Even DIGNA himself said these craft are ours. At least the one that he saw out in the desert on the observation deck 3 stories up. Was this craft ours? He didn't say that. I would be surprised if that one was ours. That seems a bit above our capability of creating pixels coming off of a craft. That's like mind-blowing. And all this amazing technology that he interacted with, I don't think that's, within our purview. Maybe it is. What happened when he got abducted? Can we find out? Did a quick search on Google, couldn't find anything. So, don't know. But, fascinating stuff. I don't know what to think. I would give you my opinion if I could, had one on this particular case, but I don't know what to think. Raytheon's there. Raytheon's a military contractor. They make aircraft. Even DIGNA stated that those craft that were in the sky that he saw were ours, or at least told by other military members over the comms that those were theirs. So what is he supposed to think? He's supposed to think that they're theirs. But then 5 to 7 days later, he has a 100% fork in the road, life-changing event with his wife, loses his capability to talk to his children, lost his job because of it too, and his life is turned upside down. This poor guy, if you see him in person, he just looks like he's gone through hell. Not only with the brain injury, but also with losing his wife, who he probably loved dearly, and obviously with his children, it obviously upset him when he got to that point in the story. So these stories, while they're fun to talk about, are real, and affect people in a very real way, life-changing ways that they can never get back, the life that they had. Their lives are broken. And it's because of, whether it's aliens, whether it's the government, whether it's black ops, someone's to blame for it. And he was just doing his job. He signed up to serve his country, and that's what he was doing. And then to have this happen to him, if it could have been prevented, then people need to be held accountable. So that's all I'm going to say. I hope you guys have a great night. Take care of yourselves physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Follow through on your hobbies and your goals and your dreams. And as always, continue to question the universe around you. Until next time, guys, take care. Light on Universe out.